Welcome back to Fox Explainer. I'm going to show you a 1994 adventure, comedy, and crime movie called Baby's Day Out. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Bennington Austin Cotwell IV, also known as Bink, is the son of Laraine and Bennington Austin Cotwell III, who live in a mansion in a Chicago suburb with their son Austin Cotwell III. Gilbertine, his nanny, is the person who spends the most time with him and knows him best. She is a very caring woman who will read him his favorite book, Baby's Day Out, or Bubo, as Bink calls it, over and over again, even when she's tired of it. Bink is getting his picture taken today so that he can be on the social pages of the newspaper. Laraine has been feeling like they've been hiding their baby from their friends, so they are putting Bink's picture in the paper. The mother and nanny are getting the baby ready, and the photographers are also ready to go. However, a group of 3 thieves ambushes them, which makes things hard for them. Eddie, Vico, and Norby take the real photographers, tie them up, and leave them in an old, empty warehouse. Then, they steal their uniforms and van so they can pretend to be the real photographers. When they get to the mansion, everyone believes them, so they set up their gear as if they were going to take a real picture and ask the mother to let them spend some time alone with the child because she might distract him if she's there. Eddie gets Laraine to leave by telling her that her outfit isn't right for the picture. This makes Laraine look a little unsure. Before she goes out with the servants to help her find the right dress, Gilbertine gives Eddie the book in case Bink hacks up. Now that everyone has left, it's very easy for the thieves to take the baby and escape through the window to their waiting van. At the halfway point, they switch to their own van, leaving their disguises and the photographer's clothes and equipment behind. Laraine finds an note that tells her not to call the police. Bennington also gets a note asking for money when he gets home from work. Soon, the police and FBI show up at the house and begin their investigation. This keeps Laraine from going outside to look for the baby on her own, which could be dangerous. While this is going on, the criminals are hiding out in a tall building with a big clock in front of the last floor apartment. After putting Bink in clothes that don't make him look like a rich baby, Norby takes him to his room and reads him a book to make him take a nap, but he ends up falling asleep himself. Bink reads the book on his own and notices that there are birds outside the window that look just like the ones in the story. So, he crawls out and uses the fire escape to climb to the roof after the birds. He looks through the skylight and sees Eddie and Vico in the room. He gets their attention by spitting on them and laughing. The thieves get scared and go after him. When they catch up with him, they see him crawling on a plank of wood to get to the other roof where the bird has flown. Norby and Vico got Eddie out of the trash can just in time to see Bink get on a crowded blue bus that looked just like the one in the book. They hurriedly got into their van and followed him around town. The bus driver sees them and drives away, losing them for a couple of blocks until the 3 of them find a way back to the main street and stop the van right in front of the bus when it stops to let a big woman out who is carrying a bag that Bink has crawled into. Norby talks to the driver and asks about the baby, but the driver just drives away. While he calls the main office to see if anyone has reported a missing baby, the other 2 see the big lady walking behind their van and see Bink sitting comfortably in her bag. They start following her, trying to figure out how to get Bink without her knowing, but she sees them and drops her things to fight them. The thieves run away when they see how strong she is, giving Bink the chance to get out of the bag and go into a store. There, he is found by the person in charge of the daycare at the mall. She thinks Bink has gotten away from her care. She takes him with her and leaves him with the other kids after changing his diaper, but when her mother comes to get her, Bink gets away again by climbing into another baby's stroller. After drinking all the juice from the other baby's bottle, Bink waits for the stroller to stop and climbs back out. He walks to the doors and waits for an adult to open them so he can go outside. On the streets, a reporter is already writing about his kidnapping for the news, and he crawls past her when he sees a taxi, which also reminds him of his book. He makes the reporter drop her microphone, and the cameras are on him for just a second, which is long enough for the thieves to see him on a TV in a shop. They run after him, but they don't catch up in time. Bink crawls into the taxi and watches them leave through the window as the car drives away. In the meantime, a man calls the Cotwells and says he has seen the baby. They go check it out. After getting some money from them, the man points to an apartment, but it's just a random baby belonging to a good woman. Bink crawls out of the taxi when it stops to drop off people and sees the zoo across the street, which is also in his book. After following the taxi with their van, the thieves show up and see him cross the street without any trouble. They try to do the same thing, but it's harder for 3 grown men to get cars to ignore them. One of the cars ends up running over their toes, which makes them run away and fall into a ditch. After they get out of the car, they go to the zoo and follow Bink's dirt tracks to the ape house, where they find Bink sitting in a cage with a gorilla. This gorilla likes the baby and takes care of him as if he were its own, feeding him fruits and keeping him safe. When Vico puts his arm inside the cage to try to grab Bink, though, it's not as nice. The gorilla just watches him for a few seconds before coming closer and hitting his hand with its fist. The next idea is to use a mop they find nearby. Norby sticks the mop's handle inside the cage and puts it through Bink's clothes to pick him up, but the gorilla quickly notices and takes Bink back before hitting Norby with the mop. Then they wait until the ape falls asleep, and then Eddie tries to get the baby out. At first, it looks like he's getting Bink to come closer, but then the gorilla wakes up, grabs Eddie, and hurls him against another cage while roaring in his face. At that moment, the zoo opens the back of the gorilla's cage so it can spend some time in the outside area. This gives Bink a chance to escape safely. While the Cotwells find Bink's picture in the paper, but not in the way they wanted, Bink hangs out in the park and watches all the other kids play and have fun. He starts crawling away again when the criminals arrive in their van and start following him. They almost catch him before he goes through some bushes and a tunnel that 3 grown men can't walk into. The 3 of them run to the park on the other side and wait for him to come out of the tunnel at the other end. Just as the police arrive, they grab him. Playing the innocent bystander card, they sit on a nearby bench and hide Bink between Eddie's legs while covering him with his jacket. The police start asking about their van and a missing baby, and Eddie tries his best to answer while squirming in pain because Bink is hitting him in the groin and even setting it on fire when he finds a lighter in one of Eddie's pockets. Norby and Vico take the police officers with them to show them something about the van. Meanwhile, Bink leaves the lighter on the bench and climbs down from Eddie's lap. Eddie is in so much pain that he can't stop Bink from getting away. When his 2 friends come back, they throw him to the ground and use their feet to put out the fire. Back at home, Lorraine goes up to Gilbertine because she realizes that she is the only one who understands how she feels. While they talk about how much they love the baby, Bink is on his way to a building site, and Vico is right behind him. Bink wants a worker's donut, so he climbs up on a steel beam to get it. He doesn't care that the beam is now carrying him to the top floor of the building. Eddie and Norby then join Vico, and the 3 of them ride the elevator together until they get to a place where the beam hasn't been yet. The plan is to jump on it and get the baby when the beam finally reaches their floor. However, when Vico jumps on the beam, his weight causes it to tip down, sending Bink sliding off until he lands on the elevator roof. Eddie and Norby try to help Vico, who is about to fall off the beam as he crawls into the building. Norby tries to grab him to bring him back inside, but he slips and ends up hanging off the beam with him for a moment before he loses his grip and falls onto some wooden boards. This is enough to push the steel beam, and Vico jumps back into the building and lands on top of Eddie. Norby, on the other hand, isn't as lucky. He slips off the wood and lands on a steel beam, then falls again and lands in a vat of wet cement. Eddie and Vico try to follow Bink around while avoiding the workers, but Vico does as well as Norby does. He tries to jump back into the elevator, but hits his head a few times and gets so dizzy that he falls off the building and lands in a dumpster. Eddie is in charge now. He gets very close to Bink and is about to catch him, but he slips on the baby's drool and falls, hitting his head with a hammer. When he tries to get up, he grabs a hanging rope for support, but pulling it turns over a vat that sprays glue all over Eddie. This slows him down because he can barely walk without falling, and it gives Bink time to crawl away and get on a moving platform that takes him back down. Eddie is desperate, so he sees the moving hook of a crane and jumps on it, thinking it will also be lowered to the ground. However, the workers leave the site at that moment, so Eddie is stuck on the crane and has to watch the sun go down. One of the workers sees Bink crawl out of the construction site, but the idea is so ridiculous he blames it on his imagination. The criminals give up on the baby and decide to return home. The FBI visits the Cotwells to inform them of all the places where Bink has been seen throughout the day. Gilbertine immediately puts 2 and 2 together and realizes he's following the journey of the book, so the last place he'll visit has to be the old soldier's home. The family and the cops drive there and effectively find him among the elderly, who are singing a song for him. Once the family has reunited, they all get back in the car together with the FBI agents, and when they drive through the highway, Bink recognizes the building he had been kept at because of the clock outside. He starts pointing at it and calling it Bubo, which indicates to the adults his book is there. After doing a U-turn and summoning for reinforcements, the FBI encircles the building and issues a demand to the criminal, demanding that he surrender and hand over the book. Before Eddie and his companions put their hands on their heads in anticipation of being arrested, Eddie is forced to throw the book at them through the window since he has no other option. When the family finally gets back to their house, they carry out the final events of the novel, which include tucking the infant into bed. As soon as his parents are no longer in view, Bink walks up to his bookcases and selects Baby's Trip to China as his next favorite book to read. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more and hit the like button to help me out, and also leave a comment if you want me to explain your favorite film. Until next time, take care.